my mind.
Somebody in a parachute has just landed on the edge of the ring. Holyfield bit by a dirty Mike Tyson. Fury has managed to get up.
Hello and welcome back to Boxing News for episode 1 of The Boxing Show with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. We've got a full house this week. We've survived in the last couple of weeks, but we are welcomed back by Mr. Barry Jones, former WBO Super Featherweight Champion of the World, and Mr. Andy Clarke from the telly. So thanks very much, guys, for stopping by. Barry, been a little while since we've had the pleasure of your company here in the studio. Welcome back.
Thanks.
He's just come back for the rebrand. Now it's episode 1 of The Boxing Show, and you've caved into his, frankly, unreasonable financial demands. He's decided to come back. Don't think I don't know about this. I'm well aware.
I text him. I just text him continuously. In the end, he just went, whatever. So, like, that whatever, you'll see what the invoice is like.
Yeah.
That whatever is going to be. I know, but seriously, congratulations on the expansion. I haven't really seen you since then. Congratulations on the expansion. And now, because everyone knows how generous you are and how you like to spread the love financially and everything else. So I look forward to doing more work for more money. And yeah, it'd be good. I can't wait till we do a podcast on the road. And I got loads of ideas. Crack on.
Brilliant. Well, that's Barry's little sales pitch to start off the episode, but we're going to crack straight on and get through it because there's a lot to talk about. This episode is going to be dedicated to what we saw this past weekend before we look ahead to 3 world title cards this week on these shores. Barry, going to come to you first. I'm going to start in Dublin for Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron. Yeah, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I thought Katie would just have one big fight left in her, but she clearly didn't. To be honest, I think Chantelle boxed really well. Let's not forget that. I think she's been a revelation the last 2 fights, a different being. And it might be that conversation that Jamie Moore had with her a while back about being more dedicated outside the training camps. You know, can't balloon up in weight as she was in the past. And I think that's a good little lesson there for every boxer who can be a bit undisciplined outside of training camps and when you have a fight date, is that you always got to stay relatively fit, relatively close-ish to your weight, not massively, but within a stone at least. And because then what happens then is those training camps then are you're not wasting 3 weeks, 4 weeks, losing 10 pound, half a stone. You're straight into doing tactical, technical stuff, fitness stuff, real proper training stuff that you need. And she's been different. The concentration levels on Chantelle Cameron in the last 2 fights have been fantastic, and she needed that on Saturday night, and she produced a great display. And without complicating anything, there was nothing complicated with the work. Everything's been on a solid jab. She double jab right hand to get close to the target. She kept the constant pressure on Katie Taylor without ever closing the gap too close, without ever going too close, allowing Taylor to fire back. Taylor didn't throw a jab, which is crazy in itself. And maybe when you think back, she doesn't really throw a lot of jabs on their own, actually. She gets away with it with a 3-punch combination, but because Chantelle Cameron never got too close when she threw her punches, it just didn't allow Taylor to get anywhere near close enough to be competitive. And I didn't think it was competitive, but I didn't think there was any argument who won. I didn't see it as close at all. I got to be honest, I didn't. I thought, if Cameron doesn't get this is, I hate saying this word because it's bandied about more than ever, but this is a robbery. Yeah,
we've got obviously two close fights in very different degrees to kind of talk about. Obviously the one being in Las Vegas, I think kind of we put that to one side for this. I think this was, I agree with you, Barry. I think there's close fights that could go either way, and there's close fights where there's a pretty clear winner. Andy, going to come to you. We sat here a week or so ago, and we both discussed about how this is potentially the biggest test of Katie Taylor's career, and of course Chantelle Cameron. We both backed Chantelle Cameron to emerge victorious, and so it proved to be on the night. Very good performance from Chantelle Cameron, and potentially a bridge too far for Katie Taylor.
Yeah, and as Barry said, you've got to make sure you give props to the winner always. And when someone like Taylor loses, and it's the first time she's lost as a pro, the inquest is inevitably going to be more about that. But Cameron was really, really good. We said last week that the question mark we had about her was, could she handle the occasion? Would she be up to it in terms of her temperament? Because we felt like she was a good enough fighter to be able to make the size difference count. And that's exactly what she did do. But temperament-wise, she was up to it. She was up to it during the week, but then there's a difference between being calm on a Thursday afternoon as opposed to a Saturday night. But on the night, as soon as the bell went, she just took her feet across the ring, got on top of Taylor and stayed there. And like Barry said, it was calculated, it was nice and cold. She didn't ever get carried away with anything or get greedy or feel like I need to win by stoppage. An experienced corner, a less experienced corner might have thought that she did need to win by stoppage, particularly after what happened to them with Jack Catterall, but they were never going to fall into that trap, and nor should you if you're in charge of a fighter at that level. When the draw got announced, that first score, I was worried. Then when we got 2 96-94s, I was pretty confident it was going to go the right way. But yeah, I didn't think it wasn't close. I think I gave Taylor 2, 8 and 10. 10 was pretty tight, so I could have had 8-2. I don't see how you could give her more than 3 rounds. I think if you were ringside, I mean, it's often different, isn't it? And the 2 judges had 96-94. Andy Lee and Alicia Baumgartner had 96-94. And I'm guessing the difference probably was that they gave Taylor round 6, which I know the commentators did, which would have got them 6-4 rather than 7-3. But it was a bridge too far for Taylor, and she doesn't need to fight that rematch unless she takes Cameron up on her offer of doing it at 135. And even then, they could still have the same problem, because I don't know how hard it would be for Cameron to get back down to 135 where she used to be, but it's not the same for women as it is for men in terms of how hard it can be. It might not be that hard, and in which case the dynamic on the night might be the same.
Barry, going to come to you. We always talk about the first round and showing your opponent what they've got in that first round. And as Andy just mentioned there, I think one of the big question marks, certainly for me, was how Cameron handles the occasion. She's got the screaming Irish behind Katie Taylor, such a superstar over there. But I felt that Chantelle Cameron really laid down a marker in that first round and really showed Katie Taylor what sort of night she was in for.
Size was always going to be a factor in this fight, and it didn't win her the fight completely, but what it helped her is she was able to back Taylor up. Now, Taylor does this thing where clearly what she does, I'm going to be an expert to see this, is she'll feint or she'll throw, and then she takes a step back and she comes back in straight away. But if her back's on the rope already, she has nowhere else to go. She can't come back in. She has to fire back. Now, what Chantelle Cameron did so well is back it up with this is where the size came in. Her physical presence backed it up. And she double jabbed her way in as well. That helped. So she didn't overcommit with the shots. She didn't really. When you double jab, you don't really give a gap. When you single jab, there's a gap to come back. When you double jab, it's harder to counter with the single shot over the top. So there's no gap really for Taylor to fire back then. And if you throw 1-2, you sometimes leave a gap where you turn your body for the right hand, and there's a gap for Taylor to go bam, bam, bam. So she double jab right hand away in, which is good. But she never come over the front foot. She maintained that long distance. So she backed Taylor up, and then Taylor knew where to go. So Taylor had to fire off. And then when she fired off the ropes, Cameron was ready to fire with her. What Cameron did so well is every time Taylor threw up a 3-punch combination, Cameron fired back straight away. Every time she threw it. Because again, we talk about the power factors not always that prevalent in women's boxing. So you can afford to take a shot, or you can block a shot more comfortable, and it doesn't physically hit you back. Some men, bigger guys, they can punch you back. So you can stay there, you can bully her. And she sort of didn't really bully her massively, but she did. I think that size factor and the way she kept the punches long always, even when she threw. I just think it just took Taylor out of a rhythm straight away. And backing up to the ropes, so she couldn't use the feet to bounce in and out of distance, was I wouldn't say genius, but that was the right tactic. And she did it from round 1. And then Taylor, we know how tough Taylor is, and she'll fire back until she has the last breath in her body. That's the way she fights. But when you're missing continuously, or when you're being fired back every time you have success, you have to take 2 shots. It just slows you down.
Or when you do land and it doesn't really have any effect. That was another thing.
Well, I think I'll say this because this was my career. I watched one of my fights the other day, actually, against Fitzgerald, and I hit him, and he didn't even blink. But like, so you almost don't even worry about it. Do you know what I mean? You just think we're scoring shots. I think Taylor's a bit like that. She knows what Taylor doesn't do anymore is throw blistering combinations of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 like she used to. She used to rally, go brrr. No, she don't. She's slower. So there's maybe more weight in her shots, but also they're not as explosive, the punches. They're not as fast, and they can be countered easier, or they can certainly be, you can cover up and ride the storm before you fire back. I thought Taylor was all in all a better fighter than Cameron. She'll go down as a better fighter in history, I would feel. But I mean, even still now, it was always about what did Taylor have left. But I don't think that wasn't it Saturday. And it might be the case that she hasn't got loads left, but that wasn't it. She was outthought and outfought, just like Jessica McCaskill was, but not so clear. But it was the same again for Cameron. She showed intelligence, discipline, a focus, a mental focus to keep concentrated for so long in a fight like that, especially in 2 minutes fast pace where you have to keep, you got so concentrated when so much is happening. That takes an intelligence and a fitness level, like that, a real supreme fitness level. You have to be so mentally aware, which tires you out really quickly. But she was fantastic. Honest God, she's been absolutely brilliant. There's an argument now that she's right behind Clarissa Shields. Clarissa Shields is the pound for pound. You have to say that, I think, but she has to be right behind her now.
I mean, so
she isn't she? Clearly,
Chantelle Cameron. So in her last 2 fights, she's beaten Jess McCaskill, undisputed champion at welterweight. She's beaten Katie Taylor, who was, of course, undisputed champion. Well, still is undisputed champion at lightweight. Boxed her at 140, but still. And if she fights Katie Taylor in the rematch and it's at 135, that's 3 consecutive fights for 3 undisputed titles at 3 different weight classes. So I think you probably have to have that.
That's crazy, though. I mean, going down to 135.
Do you not think that's because she has done it at periods of her career before?
I know, but for what weight she's been up at, and in the past struggled to make the weight. She's doing the right thing now. She's strong at this weight, and she's comfortable, and she looks good. She can move up. I think can keep that. She moves up and beats the girl she clearly beat. I mean, she moves back down. She beat another girl who I thought she beat handily enough on the scorecards, but you're draining yourself. Moving up, you're not draining yourself, and McCaskill's not massive anyway. And so she's not going to have the physical advantage over you if you box at welter, or if you box Sandy Ryan. Even I think that's a fight that you put Chantelle Cameron favourite in massively. I feel.
Of course. Yeah.
So I would do that. Going down, just you're taking too much of a risk there for me. Money though. Oh yeah, I forgot about remember money.
Because I mean, a Sandy Ryan fight and a Sandy Ryan fight, or even a Jessica McCaskill fight, is going to pay a small percentage of what you'd imagine a Katie Taylor rematch does. And if they can do that at Croke Park in September, who knows? I mean, kind of build it to that. Obviously, weren't able to do it this time. Andy, who would you like to see next for both of them, respectively, Taylor and Cameron?
I would like to see them fight at 135. That's what I would like to see. I don't see any point in taking the rematch at 140. Taylor will want it because that's who she is, for the same reason that Canelo wants it against Bivol at 175. But if you're in the Taylor business, you need to advise her against that. Although that might be difficult, but that's your job. If they're going to rematch Cameron, then I think 135, for the reasons Barry just stated, is. Why wouldn't you do that? Because she should be confident of winning. As I said, female pro fighters are more adept at traversing the weights than men physiologically. That's just how things are. The male and female body, as we know, are very different. But that is one thing in boxing. They can do it without as much drama as male fighters. So I don't know how hard it would be for her to get down to 135. I'm assuming it would be quite hard, but it might not be quite as hard as we think if she really kind of buckles down and gives herself a long time to do it, and you would get a long lead in for that kind of fight. But that is definitely an attractive fight for me, for the pair of them. If that doesn't happen, really I want to see Katie Taylor have one more big one and then retire. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think talking her into that would be really difficult, borderline impossible. But just operating on that kind of hypothesis, that's what I would like to see. I'm not saying I want to see her beat Cameron in a rematch, but she does need to go out with a win. I mean, we all know that. I think a good fight for it, if the Cameron rematch at whatever weight doesn't happen, with a view to going out on a high. I quite like Michaela Mayer as a fight for her because she's moved up. She's moved up to lightweight. She's a big name. She's a good fighter. Unified champ at super feather. She would sell the fight really well. I've dealt with her a few times with a few bits and pieces, and you know she would really play her part. But I think Katie Taylor would beat her.
What about Alicia Baumgardner?
Yeah, that's another distinct possibility. She's going to move up, you'd think, wouldn't you? Because she's cleaned everything out at super featherweight.
Chasing the money as well, isn't
Yeah, of course.
Both on the same platform as well.
Yeah, I mean they would. Everybody fancies a fight with Katie Taylor. That's the thing, isn't it?
Serrano's the fight, isn't it? Sure.
Yeah, that was going to be the last one.
Yeah,
That I was
mean
gonna
that's
come to,
another one. That's another one. But it's always proved quite hard, that fight. It proves hard to make it the first time. It's proving difficult to make it the second time. Mayer with Top Rank, I think that wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world either. But what I'm thinking is, and I'm aware that my thinking is kind of makes what I'm saying largely irrelevant, because I don't think that she is going to retire after one more big win and go out on top. I just don't.
No,
I just don't think she is going to do that. I think she wants to box for as long as she can, and I think it will be a case. Fury said it the back end of last year, and it was quite a bleak thing to hear. He said that he's realised now that boxing will retire him, not the other way around. I think that's probably what's going to happen with Taylor. This has been such a massive part of her life for such a long time. It's so important to her, maybe too important. It almost inevitably is when you get to that standard.
It becomes your identity for anyone, by the way.
We've seen Kell Brook as well.
And that's the kind of tragic flaw, if you like, that these top operators have, is that how many of them actually go out on their own terms, where we think to ourselves, yeah, they probably left a little bit in the tank there. Andre Ward recently. Froch. It doesn't happen. It doesn't.
Joe Calzaghe.
Calzaghe, of course.
Barry Jones, I thought you were making that.
But it doesn't happen much. Usually when you look through a fighter's record, no matter what they've achieved, you'll generally see maybe 3 defeats in their last 4. They lose one, then they lose another one, then they take a little bit of an easier one, they win it, and then they come back, and then they lose again. And at that point, it probably hits home that it's gone. But that's the way it is, isn't it? That's the way it's always been for almost everybody.
You're getting embarrassed then to yourself, not to people, to yourself. I think
you're losing to guys or girls in this instance who,
I was going to come back when I was about 31, and I was really fit. I was strong all of a sudden. I was strong like a punch. It was crazy. It was freaky, and it wasn't freaky power, but to me it was. I was hitting the bag and it was moving, and but you was thinking, and then all of a sudden I just thought, for what? Yeah. For what? Robert Smith helped me out, because he said, you can apply for your license again, but are you sure? Like, and I really pondered on my brain for a while, and I thought, right, what am I doing it for? Am I going to be a world champion again? I doubt it. No, highly unlikely, and no, I'm not. So what? Am I going to be a British champion? Well, that's great, but I've been to a different level. And also, what if I get beat? What if I can win a British title? What if I do get beat at that level? Now all of a sudden I remember for that, not for this. Or for that, in my mind, and just like, and I was never afraid of losing, but it's a different thing now. Once you have something, that's what they've had. They've had that. You lose sympathy for all of them because you think they got all this money and all this fame and they've done everything they wanted to do. But it's the same for whatever it is. You're still a human being, aren't you? And it's still, you're known for that. I was Barry the boxer from 10 years of age, literally, and all of a sudden then I'm like Barry what? Yeah, in my mind, and for these it's magnified because they really are something special, and even people like Fury who got all that money and all that fame and all that stuff that he might want, I don't know, but then he's going to retire. He's still got all that money, and so is Katie Taylor. She's got plenty of money, and she's a god. She's one of the most famous Irish sports persons of all time. But to her, she'll be what am I now? Yeah, because she's not walking into a media job.
No, she's not going to go in the jungle, is she? Like,
no, you have it's an identity crisis. I mean, where do you go? What do you do? And like you say, people can say all they want about, well, you made all this money and all the rest of it, but for all of you, it was never about that when you started. No. It was never about that. And then if you've hit that absolute top level where it's never about that really, because they were always going to make loads of money. It just that's not part of their thinking.
But I'd rather be them retired with all their money than me. So it's much harder for me. I said on Ricky Hatton a while back, and I said, it's harder for you than it is for me to retire. You know, we had all these problems and stuff. So because I had to, after a little while, my money went pretty quickly. So I had to, in the end, hi, hello, how are you? I had to go back to work. I had to go make a living. But he's never going to have to go to work. He's never going to work a day in his life again. So, you know, that at some point I got a routine. Within like 18 months of my life, I got a routine. I had to. And he doesn't. So how'd you get out of that? How'd you get out of that rut of feeling sorry for yourself? How'd you get out of that rut of, you know, because you got all that money, you just go drinking and taking drugs and doing whatever your thing is, you can just do it forever. But you just keep sinking down that hole that you don't come back from. And you know, it takes something, and sometimes it's fitness, and sometimes it's training people or whatever, media work, whatever it is that helps you out. But you know, so sometimes it is harder for those bigger names who earn loads of money because they have no way out. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
No, it does.
But this is not what the podcast is about. But like it's.
But it is in a way, because it will heavily influence what Taylor does and doesn't do. And I think if you're in the Taylor business, I think you're really getting towards the key part of your job now. This is where you're really going to earn your money with regard to making sure she gets out of the sport in the best possible shape and doing the best you can for her, maybe in difficult circumstances, and having conversations with her that she doesn't want to have and that she might not enjoy and that you might fall out over. This is the business end if you're in that business, if you actually give a shit about her. And I do think that the people around her do. You look at Brian Peters and Rosanna, mate, they've all been together a long time. They've all been on the journey together. But this is where it can get hard, because the last thing any of us want to see with any fighter, but particularly someone who's given so much to the sport, we don't want to see them not abused by the sport. I'm not sure that's quite the right phrase, but we need to see them saved from themselves as much as possible. But it's easier said than done.
I would say though, she's not at that stage yet. She hasn't been battered by anybody. No, she hasn't had the Derek Chisora beatings. Let's be honest about it.
True.
You know, even though he's still competitive and he can still earn loads of money, and good luck to him. But I mean, you know, he's had some really hard. She hasn't had that. She has hard fights.
No, I'm not retiring her just yet. But you know what I mean.
She's at that point where what are you searching for?
Yeah, it's that kind of that tipping point, isn't it? Where maybe in 2 or 3 fights' time you look back and go, actually, maybe that was the one where she could have. Yeah. You know. But before we move on, because we do have to move on, we haven't asked Barry. What would you like to see next for Katie Taylor? Be it retirement, be it something else, or is that the fight?
I think she should retire anyway. I maybe thought that after the Serrano fight, that was such a grueling fight. What else does she have to prove? But now she's had that homecoming, but it wasn't the homecoming she wanted. So that, again, you're always searching for other stuff, aren't you? And she'll want to have that win. She wanted that Croke Park thing as well. She'll think that 9,000 was not big enough for me. It was Dublin, it was great, but it was only 9,000, not 40,000 that I was promised. And that might be the searching for her. Or like, we all want a little bit of a rocky story in our life, you know, to come back and win that title back in bigger fashion and in bigger stadium and bigger, you know, everything about it. And my back's against the wall. People are betting against me for the first time. All those sort of things. She might be searching for that, but forget about her feelings and her health. Let's talk about as a boxing fan what we want to see. And her versus Serrano is the best fight to watch for us. That's the best fight. Might not be the best fight for her, but for us to watch as boxing fans, it doesn't get no better than them two having a war. That's the truth. So if we look at it like that, like we don't know who they are, that's the fight we want to see.
Okay, before we move on and talk about Gary Cully on the undercard, my take on the whole situation for anybody who cares.
So what's your take on the whole situation?
My take on the whole situation, Barry, I'm glad you asked. I thought Chantelle Cameron was fantastic. I thought she won the fight very clearly. I didn't think it was as close as certainly the judges had it. I had it 7 rounds to 3 for Cameron, and I felt like the rounds that I gave Taylor were close rounds. There were a lot of close rounds in there, but again, goes back to what we were saying earlier about close rounds where there's a clear winner of those rounds. I thought Cameron was great. I thought she worked the jab really well, and also what we've spoke about in several instances in the past is just kind of forcing Taylor to work in the early rounds without throwing, as well as what she was doing to the head and body. I thought the left hook to the body was a great shot that worked all the way throughout the fight for Chantelle Cameron. Thought it had that period in the middle rounds, Andy, that we were talking about, where Taylor just started to slow down. She held her feet and she was getting hit with big shots on the inside. And as she does, she kind of bit down on the gum shield and saw it through to the end of the fight and nicked a couple of the later rounds. But I thought it was a fantastic performance from Chantelle Cameron. I thought she deserved the win clearer than perhaps she got it. And credit to her. Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis. I thought she was fantastic, and I agree with you, Barry. I think she's right up there now with the women's pound for pound. Before we move on from Dublin, Gary Cully, obviously somebody who had quite a lot of hype and build up behind him at lightweight, kind of anointed as the next one to watch. Saw his progression in the 135 pound division grind to a crashing halt, Barry, with a stoppage loss to Jose Felix Jr.
Yeah, he was boxing well though. I think people just... I've seen some things on social media. There you go, another one overhyped. You've got to hype a fighter. Well, how you promote him? Otherwise, you have to hype him. Everyone's overhyped. There's always a risk that it's going to blow back in your face. He boxed really well. He just got caught with a really good shot. He had up to that point, he wasn't doing many things wrong. Like a guy who sort of starting to believe his own power. He was getting a little bit close to the target at the times when he was letting his shots go every now and again. But he was boxing well. The round before, he boxed beautiful. He just got caught with a good shot, a great shot. The guy dipped his head down, swung over the top, really stepped in with him, just caught him with a great shot, and then he just never recovered from that. That's the truth. Just never recovered. I don't think there was any argument about it, and that's so. He just got. It happens. I think he'll bounce back from it. I think psychologically he'll bounce back. Because you'll watch it back and go, that was a great shot. You'll watch it back and go, look at that, that's a great shot. What am I supposed to do about that? He didn't get outboxed, he didn't get battered, just got caught with a good shot. I got battered a bit after that, but it wasn't massive. What he went for it then, didn't he? The kid, to be fair to him, Papa went for it. Knew he had to get him out there, or he might escape. But what Cully doesn't, he doesn't always use his size and reach. He could box a little bit more into the contest, a little bit more, but I think we're looking for things that weren't a problem. Now he's got stopped.
Yeah, it's always the
the time he was boxing well, there was no problem. He just got caught with a good shot. That was it.
One of the things that boxing...
Did I say that again? I said it
it's
16 times.
We got it. One of the things that boxing aficionado and seasoned campaigner Conor McGregor had to say afterwards to Eddie Hearn is he blamed the matchmaking. Now, Eddie Hearn's kind of, I guess, rebuttal to that against, finely tuned matchmaker that Conor McGregor is that he boxed Tyrone McKenna. And Tyrone McKenna beat him. He boxed Sandor Martin. Sandor Martin beat him, admittedly up at 140, but still.
And also, he's from MMA, where they always slag off boxing, saying people you have had fights and that's what you progress.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
Was anyone complaining about the fight last week?
No. And I think a lot of people looked at that and went, "Oh well, Tyrone McKenna beat him. How can he be that good?" Tyrone McKenna
I saw it the other way around. I saw people saying, lads I know from America saying, there are signs that Jose Felix, maybe shouldn't really be fighting anymore. And they didn't like the fight for that reason. So look at what people were saying before the fight, before you decide that it was a terrible match. I've seen people after Saturday suggesting that, Katie Taylor should never have taken that fight. The people around her should have known. And you just think, right, I mean, it's really easy to just pick holes in things after the event. There was nothing wrong with that match. Nothing wrong with it at all.
You think they weren't aware of Chantelle Cameron being a good fighter before the fight? Of course they would.
And Gary Cully, Jose Felix, there was nothing wrong with that match. And
it was good matchmaking.
Yeah, it was good matchmaking. And as Barry said there, he just got caught, and that happens. And this idea that every time any fighter you give a push to loses, it's a hype train being derailed. Grow up. Yeah. You have to push fighters. This is professional sport. If you're trying to progress them properly, you have to set them challenges. And sometimes it will go wrong. And it did go wrong, but it's not the end of the world. We'll find out a bit about him now, because you have to come back, and some people don't manage to do it, and so that first defeat can be very significant. But this is the world they live in. This is the business.
And he didn't crumble. He crumbled. He did sort of crumble, but I mean, it was a really good shot. The guy threw everything. He dipped the head. He got all the weight went into that shot. It was a shot that would have hurt anybody or knocked out anybody potentially. So it wasn't like you just got caught with a decent shot and fell apart and you thought, oh, he can't take a punch. Or there's been signs that he's been vulnerable before.
The
let's be
Woodruff
honest.
Fight,
But I mean, And he didn't unravel. He didn't get outboxed. He wasn't short of answers for certain situations. It was too early in the fight to really get into that. It wasn't a wall of attrition that he couldn't back it up. None of those things were involved. So he just got caught, and that's it. So we'll see how he comes back. I think you still got to match him relatively hard. Still, I just put that as a blip.
Yeah, I think.
I don't think it exposed him as he can't take a punch or anything.
No, that's it. So sometimes it matters how you lose,
knockouts.
doesn't it? Sometimes it really matters how you lose. If it seems like you couldn't take a shot, or if it seems like you quit, or if it seems like the occasion was just too big for you. But sometimes it matters, and sometimes it doesn't. And Saturday night, or a defeat matters, but the way that he lost wouldn't be cause for any great concern.
Right, before we move on and talk about Vasiliy Lomachenko, just the final one on Gary Cully. Bit late from the referee, Barry.
First of all, the security guard he didn't get up. He didn't get up, did he? The security guard he didn't get on the ring apron to tell the referee that.
I think after the third knockdown, I think he did.
Look at the towel going in. Almost has no relevance on the referee's decision to stop the fight. By the way, we've seen that in the past. Yeah. The referee doesn't have to take a notice of the towel. I think I think the problem you got with a thing like that, we had to look at Fury, and when did he cut his eye in Vegas? Was that Schwartz? Otto Wallin. Well, if that was Wallin was cut, that fight was stopped. Because Fury was a massive favourite and was always going to win that fight, that went on longer than it should have, and sort of right as well. Because not sort of right, that don't make it a level playing field, does it? So I'm sorting out my back end here, but that's the reason why. And Cully, he wanted to give Cully every opportunity. He took a few too many shots, but I didn't see it as a massively late pulling him out. He could have stopped it. He could have stopped it as soon as he got down. He got up a little bit wobbly.
Yeah, I felt like the time to stop it was probably between the first and second knockdown.
But it wasn't dangerously late or anything like that, I don't think. And all like he didn't see the towel. He didn't see the towel because he's watching. It was behind him. He wants to dig out the referees all the time and the judges. I don't know why. but I mean, he's worrying about the fight. He's not seeing the towel that's thrown behind him. That's not his business to look what's behind him.
It's an interesting with regard to how you are supposed to stop a fight. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to alert the inspector or supervisor or whoever it is who was assigned to your corner, and then they attract the attention of the referee and stop the fight. That's what you're supposed to do. So I don't know whether that was a security guy or whether that was an inspector or supervisor who got up on the apron, because if it was the supervisor who you've notified, them getting up on the apron is actually what's supposed to happen. Throwing in a towel has just become something that people do. But
it's sort of symbolic,
if the referee doesn't see where the towel comes from, how can he stop the fight? Anyone can take a white towel.
I'm just thinking now.
Anyone can take a white towel to a fight and chuck it in.
Imagine if in my fight when my dad threw the towel in, they stopped Frida's.
Yeah, that'd have been a good idea.
My life would be totally different.
I felt like I'm less bothered. I mean, it's never a good look when a towel has come in and then the fight's carrying on and he's still getting hit. Which is obviously regrettable, but I felt like the time to stop the fight was between the first and second knockdowns. He was hurt, badly hurt, and then certainly on the second knockdown when he got up, he was all over the place. That's where I felt like the main kind of source of anger or whatever you want to call it should have been. Less so around the towel, although it just never really looks good, doesn't it, when the towel comes in and the shots keep coming in. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the undisputed lightweight title bout this past weekend in Las Vegas. Barry, going to come to you first.
I was right.
Devin Haney retains his undisputed lightweight titles with unanimous decision win over Vasiliy Lomachenko. Going to start at the end and work our way back. The right decision?
No. But I was right. I said he'd win, Haney, didn't I? I said he'd win. I was right. But I didn't think he did win. I didn't. I thought Lomachenko did it. It was close. And I'm not screaming blue murder. It was a robbery of all proportions. We've seen worse robberies over the years. And this wasn't really a robbery. I just thought he was hard done by a little bit. I think I had a 16-13 maybe. I think.
So you had a round even in there.
Yeah, the round even. Then yeah. But and if I would have gone the other way, it would have been 16-12. Yeah.
Well, if you'd have got it 10-9,
yeah.
So it's a close fight, even from what
I thought it was relatively close. They were all hardly fought. The thing with I would say about Lomachenko is because he does some of the things he does, most of the things he does are so like marvelous that when he does good work, you go whoa. Where Haney's quite structured and his work is more simple, so he's scoring shots, but they're not whoa. Look at that! Oh, did he get there? No. When Lomachenko does something, it lights up the room. But actually, the result is just the same as what Haney's doing at times.
Yeah, I thought I watched it this morning, and I thought exactly that as I was watching it. I thought I was looking at these long, sweeping right hands to the body that Haney was landing, regularly, and I was thinking to myself, you've got someone doing some kind of real solid, consistent stuff here, and then when Lomachenko fires in some rapid combinations, the most eye-catching moments of the fight all came from him, didn't they?
But I still think he didn't enough to win. I do. I think you got to feel a little bit disappointed. And just like a never end. He's like evergreen, isn't he? You know what I mean? He just looks as fresh now as he did. He's still too small for the weight, by the way. But that's I can't keep saying that for him forever. I'm not defending him. I don't really care. But I mean, you can't keep saying that because he is that weight.
Yeah.
If he's too small, it's his business. He wants to be there. But Haney had all the size advantages, and he used them the best he could. I just don't think he did enough.
Andy, how did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting for me because I didn't watch it live. I was away this weekend, and I managed to kind of sneak in Taylor Cameron in quite clandestine
you messaged
fashion.
Me about it, didn't you?
But I couldn't do it with Vasiliy Lomachenko. So obviously, I knew it's not realistic to think that you can go through a whole day without knowing the result.
Hang on a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So I seen a tweet the other day. Matt Macklin, lovely guy, great boxer, really good commentator. You work alongside him. He never watched it either. He said, he put on Twitter, I don't know why you do this. He said, I haven't seen the fight, but I'm hearing it was controversial. I'm thinking, you got the two Sky commentators, couldn't even watch the Sky broadcast.
You ain't getting paid to do it, man. There's no problem.
Do you know what I mean? They couldn't even watch their own product.
So I tweeted. I woke up in the 10th round.
It's the American coverage.
They should have used you. I understand. They didn't use you, so you went, they're not using us.
I actually fell asleep. I woke up in the 10th round and tweeted, fell asleep, how's everyone got it? But you make an interesting point there because I had the same thing. I actually ended up, I'm not going to go back and, so I watched the last 3 rounds after I'd woke up on the sofa covered in pizza. It was great. But the next day when I watched it back, I'm kind of watching it with seeing all of this, Lomachenko was robbed and this, and it does, I'm going to go back and watch it probably in a week or so when it's died down a little bit.
It's a really interesting exercise because
you have to try and block that out.
You hear what people are saying about it, and what I was hearing was it was a really close fight, but people's overall impression was that Lomachenko deserved to win. And I always find that kind of thing interesting because if you score it round for round and do it the forensic way, the way that you're supposed to, then you can quite often get something that you don't get if you just use an impressionistic scoring method over one 36-minute round. They're not always the same thing. And two good pals of ours whose opinions I think we all trust, like Deck Taylor, Mark Butcher, both said the same thing, which was they scored it 6-6, round for round, but the overall impression you got from watching the fight was that Lomachenko won.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite telling. So that was the only thing that was really in my head when I went to watch it, because I didn't really see any kind of breakdowns of, well, there's no way you could score these rounds any other way than that, and 7, 8 and 9 were obviously this. So all I really knew when I went to watch it was that people thought that Lomachenko kind of just gave away the last round, and he kind of said that himself. That was all I really knew. And I thought it was a really close fight, but when I came to write down my score at the end of a round, I did it pretty quickly every time, apart from 2 rounds where I was kind of sat there holding my pen. One was the 8th round, which I don't think other people had too much trouble with because I had a look at stuff afterwards. Maybe I lost concentration slightly there. That can happen, but I gave that to Lomachenko. And the other was the final round, and I think it was because of all I'd been hearing was, Haney definitely won that round, and I got to the end of it and thought, did he?
Yeah, it was a very close round.
That was a really close round.
And I thought it was on the back of rounds 10 and 11 where Lomachenko, and particularly in the 11th round, had a very good round. Yeah. And whether or not the fight, I gave the final round to Haney, but whether or not that's playing a subconscious part whereby he's done much better than he did certainly in the 11th and 10th is, I'm not sure. But seeing Lomachenko afterwards say, I felt like I was winning the fight and all I needed to do was defense,
well, I did.
That's such a frustrating.
It is, but I did have him 7-4 up going into that final round. So if the corner had it like that, and they're pretty resolute, that crew, aren't they? They would feel like, we know what's happening here. 7-4 up. You do just need to avoid getting knocked down. But
that's when you don't want to get caught with a silly shot.
I understand the reason for it, but in a fight like
that round,
that,
I just didn't feel like he did that. I got to the end of the round and I just thought,
He tried to win
Hang on a
didn't he?
second. Like
Yeah.
I could.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
De La Hoya Mosley, where he
I
was just
could give him
completely
that round. So anyway, in the end, I ended up with 7-5 Lomachenko, but the 8th I gave to him, which I think was right. I'd probably, like I say, maybe I lost concentration a little bit, but the 12th I gave to Haney, and I could have given that to Lomachenko, but all 3 judges went the other way. When I looked through how I had it compared to how the judges had it, my card didn't correspond with any of theirs.
Yeah, I mean,
really.
I don't think anybody's corresponded with
did.
Dave
Yeah.
Moretti.
But it is interesting how you, like we say it all the time, but you can't say it enough about score. If you want to watch a fight, watch it live. You can once you have someone else's opinion forced on you, or you read it, then you're watching the fight with a view to what's being said. So you're looking for stuff, or you more than you should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're looking for Haney to do more than he should have to do, or you're looking for Lomachenko to make a mistake, or whatever it is. Or I don't want to give Lomachenko these. I want Lomachenko to win now because it looks like he got robbed.
Yeah.
And
It is
so you got to
hard.
watch it live, and also what you got to do. I do it all the time. My missus makes me do this when we watch a program. My phone, grab my phone, and I got to throw it to the other side of the settee.
Yeah.
The other side, and for me that's miles away. 'Cause I'm little, but you got to grab it and I throw it away, because even if I put it there, well, I won't watch my phone. Within 25 minutes, I'll just go, just check in a minute. Not for whatever reason, and you'll do that in between the rounds.
Yeah.
Like you'll check Twitter, see what it says. And,
If I'm being really strict, then I'll turn the sound off, no phone, write my score down on a slip of paper, put it over the other side of the room so I can't see how I've scored
you've got
previous
it, yeah.
rounds. But I don't expect people to do that.
Yeah,
No,
people,
you gotta-
there's
I
some
mean,
normal people out there.
Yeah, there's
who are
some
not
normal
like
people
us.
out there, but the point does still hold.
you
because
for sure.
you got to enjoy the fight.
Yeah,
You should
of course, of
I
course.
watch a fight. I watch a fight when I'm at home, and I don't really try and score it round by round. Why should I? I want to enjoy it. I watch it to enjoy it. That's what I want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Really, and unless it's
But
a
the problem-
reason why I
But
should
when
score it.
you've got a really close fight, if you haven't scored it round by round, and I'm not saying you can't have an opinion, I'm not the opinion police, but at the same time, it's sort of irrelevant because, like Declan and Mark were right. If you watch that round, that fight as a whole, because Lomachenko's round wins, the clearest round wins of the fight were his, say 10 and 11. So he had a strong finish because, like I say, I don't really agree that he definitely lost the final round. So he had the biggest round wins, and they were towards the end of the fight. You would leave that experience feeling like he'd won.
Yeah.
You would. And, Taylor Pursoon in Madison Square Garden's a fight I go back to quite a bit when it comes to scoring, because I was ringside for that and I had it a draw, and I didn't find any of the rounds that hard to score. I thought it was 5-5. I didn't think it was that hard to score. But Pursoon's round wins were much bigger than Taylor's, and she had a strong finish, so everybody felt like she'd won. And I totally understand why everybody felt like she'd won.
Maybe the scoring.
If that's how you watched it.
Yeah, I saw something.
Maybe scoring should be changed.
We saw something today on Twitter where it said about trying to find some sort of middle
It's
ground.
hard,
I guess
though, isn't it?
yeah, you can't,
Because it still comes down to
clear
interpretation.
clear 10-9s and close 10-9s, and
comes
having
down
the
to
same.
interpretation.
When you work in a fight, like commentary, like you love it, but you don't enjoy the fight as much as if you're a pundit. If you're just doing you're just in front of the camera, or if you're just going as a spectator, you just can't, because you're concentrating more it takes away the real enjoyment of watching a fight. That's the truth of it. So maybe a fight, maybe they shouldn't do rounds. They should just score the fight. Who do you think's won? I think that's I'm talking my back end here, but I'm a little bit, because all big moments you'll remember he did the better work. So Lomachenko did the better work throughout the whole fight. Hi, sorry, George Groves, but round by round it makes it a closer fight. I still think he won anyway, regardless of this. But I think that would be the difference.
Yeah, I thought
If it was just 36 minutes, and the rounds are just and the minutes are just rests and not a round, then you just say who, like they would back in the turn of the last century, where they just go. You have journalists when you go, who do you think won the fight?
Newspaper decision.
Yeah, it would be totally different.
Yeah. But the long and short of it is that we all thought that Lomachenko won both ways, didn't we?
Yeah, I had Lomachenko 7 rounds to 5, but I did think it was a close fight.
I know it was.
Yeah,
I felt like
I could see 6-6, but I couldn't see 7-5 Haney. And when you say that, people always say, well, if you could see 6-6, it's only one more round, but you have to draw the line somewhere.
Again, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. There's a clear winner of a close fight, I feel, and I feel like that's kind of the realms that we've got to with Haney Lomachenko. We're going to move on.
Golovkin Canelo first fight. the draw. I thought that was a clear winner in a close fight.
Yeah,
And he was
exactly. Yeah, that's a good example. Moving away from kind of the scoring, just on the performances, I was very impressed with Devin Haney. I have to say, I thought Devin Haney boxed very well. I thought like he showed different areas of his game that we haven't seen so far. We spoke about needing to hold the middle of the ring and push Lomachenko back. Okay, he didn't do that, consistently, I don't think throughout the whole 12 rounds, but he certainly did in the earlier stages of the fight. The right hand to the body was working really well.
He didn't allow Lomachenko to get around him.
He didn't allow him to what?
Get around him.
We've waited weeks, Barry. Come on, give it to us.
I'm not saying the word.
Oh,
No.
okay,
You
well,
don't pay enough for that word.
It was a really, really good fight to watch, wasn't it? That's something else we haven't really.
Yeah, it was an
said.
excellent fight. So
I
it's kind
really
of like
enjoyed it.
You always get people like, oh, look, we all love Gatti Ward and Barrera Morales and these toe-to-toe wars and Lyle Foreman and things like that. But for me, like high level, high speed chess is brilliant to watch, where you've got two guys really working it out and trying to work out and counter the counter and think steps and steps ahead. And I felt like the early rounds and how close Haney allowed Lomachenko to get in those early rounds. There was no downloading of the data from Lomachenko. He came out and he tried to really make an imprint early on. And I felt like Haney handled that in the first 6 rounds of the fight, Barry, very, very well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't panic. But again, though, I think that's a size factor as well. You just know Lomachenko's movements are not as intimidating because you're naturally a bigger guy. I think that plays a massive part. So then that's what Lomachenko has to overcome. But yeah, but he wasn't able to get around the target as quick as he would against other boxers.
And is that just the range and
it's the range, because you see how big the shoulders are of Haney. He got long arms, but his shoulders are out here already. Like, so it looks like he got a coat on. Like it doesn't. Shoulder pads on. It's crazy. So if he goes side on, you just can't get near him. Like he's just he boxed really well. But there was a guy there. No, when Shakur Stevens got in that ring, I thought, he beats both of them.
You see that there's that photo afterwards with Shakur sort of looking at Haney. It reminds me of somebody tweeted earlier. It reminds me of Joshua Usyk when Joshua's walking towards the crowd and you've got Usyk with the hood on and he sort of sees him in the distance.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of that. But sticking with Haney, we'll come on to kind of Shakur and Gervonta Davis afterwards. What were you impressed with in his performance, and what do you think he still needs to develop and work on?
Haney. No, I think he was good. I think not with someone like Lomachenko. There's an easy, understandably, you can just panic. Because he darts in and he changes. What Lomachenko does so well, I'm going to say what he does well, is he's up and down like this with his body. He's just short, but because the way his feet work, and what he does with his front foot really well, his feet, like they say, you've got to keep the same distance in your feet always. So even when you're moving back and forwards, if your front foot moves back, your back foot moves back. What he does, Lomachenko, he steps back with the front foot, doesn't move the back foot back. So you feel like he's stepping out of range. He's not haven't gone anywhere at all. I think they sort of mentioned that about punching on the brake. What he does with the brake is when they say brake, he doesn't move. He lets you move back. We used to do it as amateurs all the time. We used to work all the time. Say the referee says brake, you just move your back foot and keep your front foot there, and then literally it looks like your body's moving back, and then you just come straight back on. You're there. But he does it with the front foot. If you go back and watch it, his front foot just moves back and forth like this, like flicks, like a little fin, like that. He doesn't move the back foot back. So he's not going anywhere, but you feel like he's retreating. Then you get a bit cut, and he just jumps on you again really quick. But what Haney didn't do, all those little movements that work for Lomachenko, the little dart when he darts down here to see where you are, and you go, oh, here he comes, here he is, watch him. Haney never panicked, he just felt comfortable. And it might be because of the size, he just felt nice and comfortable, just kept trying to work behind the jab, and kept it simple. I think what Haney does, he keeps it very simple. Works well, he throws a good uppercut as well. But he keeps it very simple. I think that's his strength. Doesn't overcomplicate his work. But ultimately on Saturday, he just never, all those little moves, all those little darting moves that Lomachenko can make that can really put a panic on you, he never got flustered once.
Andy, impressed with Devin Haney's performance?
Yeah, it was like we said a few minutes ago, watching it. You're seeing someone in Haney who is really, really disciplined. He's got a very, very good temperament, and he was doing some solid, unspectacular stuff. I thought the bodywork in particular really was his most effective.
It's the first time we've really seen that from him,
yeah,
isn't it?
Long right hands to the body, just dip his knees, throw that long sort of right hand into the rib cage, but also up close he would get uppercuts into the body, and I thought that did have an effect on Lomachenko. There was one quite late on where he hit him with a body shot, and he just went for a little walk, kind of pulled his waistband up. I wouldn't say he grimaced exactly, but when fighters do that sometimes,
There's
and they're
little-
always having a little stretch like that, you think, I think you felt that one. And I think it did really work
He's like
well
that,
for him.
Lomachenko's like this, so and he's very high with his
Yeah, and I think so. He took what he could get. It was intelligent stuff, and I think that because he was aggressive, Lomachenko, like you said, he was looking to be aggressive. But I think one of the reasons why, I mean, it's not like he's ever really looked to hold his feet and stay in there too long. But I think one of the reasons why he maybe really didn't want to do that was because he just kept getting pinned to the body, and you could see he was keen to avoid it. Some great shots of that kind of telescopic right hand coming in, and Lomachenko moving back and then pulling his waist back like a bullfighter, just to try and get away from it. Basically, I just loved watching it. I thought it was a really, really good fight. It was kind of what we expected it to be. We never expected a slugfest, but build up was great. Really enjoyed Blood, Sweat and Tears. I think the heyday of those shows is probably gone because I'd imagine they maybe don't do the numbers they used to. I don't know that for a fact, but I really enjoy them anyway.
I think with stuff like that, sorry to interrupt, I think it's the I think because everyone's a little bit more accessible now, I think, and you kind of see little snippets into camps, and like Haney will probably have his own videographer that he puts out on his Devin Haney YouTube channel, taking everyone's work from them. But it don't quite have the behind the.
That's it. It's not really behind the curtain, behind the scenes anymore, is it? We see that stuff all the time. Whereas, I always go back to Mayweather Hatton, and build-ups like that where you feel like, oh yeah, this is insider stuff. This is true behind the scenes, fly on the wall. But those days are gone, aren't they? Because there's loads of flies on every wall now. So
too much, and we get too much access now. Just too much. We do. Sorry, Rob. Just realised what I said there.
That's all right. But yeah, I felt that Haney, certainly the first half of the fight, I had Haney ahead after 6 rounds, but I felt like Lomachenko was just able to take it up in the second half of the fight, and that ultimately, on my card at least, and it sounds like on a lot of other people's cards, kind of gave him the nod. Where next for Lomachenko, Andy? It's going to be kind of difficult to see where he gets his hands on the undisputed, at least. I mean, you don't know what Devin Haney's going to do. Is he going to relinquish his belts, move up to 140? You'd think Lomachenko should be well positioned to fight for Shakur Stevenson for a vacant WBO. Would seem like quite a logical step if those belts become fractured. Is it retirement for Lomachenko? I mean, Lomachenko's had 20 pro fights now. He's not quite been able to get to that holy grail of the undisputed title with all of his accolades, both for amateur and pro. You'd think he'd be able to kind of put his feet up, so to speak, and enjoy and reflect on a very successful career. I don't think he will. Where next for him?
No, I don't think he will either. I don't see any possibility of a rematch. Fans might call for it, but I don't see that. Is there not any chance that he could go back and do some more work at featherweight and super featherweight? Because I know he's chosen to fight at lightweight, and ultimately that is his decision. But I do think one of the kind of shames about Lomachenko's career, and there aren't many, is that the fights weren't really there for him at featherweight and super featherweight, and so he kind of felt like he was forced up to lightweight, where the better contests have been, but that actually he's never been a lightweight really. They might not be the sexiest fights, but is there any percentage, any possibility of him just thinking, well, I could just go back down and see if I can clean up at one of those two weights? I mean, what would be wrong with that?
They have Navarrete, don't they, at super feather?
Yeah, is he go back down to the featherweight though?
No, he's staying at super feather. He doesn't have. I think what they're going to try and do is Navarrete Valdez at 130.
Yeah.
But Joe Cordina?
But
imagine Lomachenko
Lomachenko never got beat. If he stays in super featherweight, he never gets beat. If he would have stayed there.
Yeah.
Even Shakur Stevenson at that point, would have been too green for him, I think. So yeah, but you got to chase the money, and because the money's still at lightweight now.
Yeah.
So he's not going anywhere. He's not going. Yeah. If he's going anywhere, he's going up, which is not big enough. But that's where he'll go. He'll chase the money now. At this stage of his career, he'll just go where the money is. And
I also think that him at this stage of his career, he's not a big lightweight, and I'm sure he could make super feather. Does he really want to be cutting extra weight now at this stage of his career?
And for what money? They're going to go, listen, you stay here now. If you're not going to get Devin's not going to fight him again. He didn't say it, but he almost said it without saying it on the night.
Yeah.
I won that. That wasn't a close fight or whatever he said.
Will he fight a lightweight again, Haney, do you think? Or
I don't think so. No, by all accounts, I think
the
the weight cut was difficult this time.
But he weighed it. But the thing, he did weigh in like 3 days before the fight. That weigh in at 9 o'clock is
it's starting to happen.
It borders on cheating.
It's starting to happen a lot now. Like it happens a lot with a lot of the big fights. I'm not
Gives
saying
you
it's
a
right
lot
at
of
all,
time,
but it
doesn't it?
does happen a lot.
Tell him, if that's the same for every fighter. Now, if I had a fighter and he's a lightweight, I'd go, you can box a featherweight, you can.
But that's essentially what people are doing.
Because you're gonna weigh in at like 9 o'clock, literally on like 2 days before the fight.
You've got 36 hours, haven't you?
Yeah.
Before you get
It's
in the ring.
ridiculous amounts of time to put on weight. It's almost like you don't have to make weight, really. Not really. I mean, that has no effect on you. It does a little bit, but not enough to really make an effect. About making weight was sometimes whether you made the weight right or not without taking drugs or cheating, then that has an effect on your tank massively as the rounds go by, and that can be the difference between win or lose in a fight. That's why they have weight classes. But now it's like there is no weight class. It's just ridiculous. Like it's all you weigh in 2 days, almost 2 days before a fight. It's just like 36 hours. It's madness. You should weigh in 6 o'clock the day before. That's when you should weigh in. That makes it fair for everyone. And if you can't make the weight, go up. No, you won't see massive difference in size then so much as you do. You never seen it before, did you? People weighing on a day. It was never like you never get a guy who was like massive. No, it was more everything. No, you see massive disparities in people and size and wherever else they have now because people know how to make weight better, but also having more time to make it. And you have more people are from poorer countries then who don't have access to all this equipment and everything. I don't say drugs, equipment and all the other stuff, and knowledge and ingredients.
I know what you're saying.
And so then they're not. They got to make weight the old-fashioned way. So they're going to have to stick to more of their weight class. Where people in more modern countries will be able to cheat.
Let's say
we'll never get a Zuma Nelson again. We'll never get one of those again, though, because of this.
Let's say that that Lomachenko does stay at lightweight. Top rank have Shakur Stevenson. They have Keyshawn Davis, but early for him, I think. They've also just signed George Kambosos. That could be a potential down the line, potentially kind of like I mean, you would think Lomachenko is only going to want either the biggest fights available or something that's going to get him in position to fight for a big title. You could get an eliminator with a Kambosos for a title, or he could fight a Shakur Stevens or somebody like that. You'd think it would come from that top rank stable. You wouldn't think that Lomachenko is going to be kind of, with all due respect, sort of sacrificed elsewhere. You'd think that if somebody beats him, it's going to be from that top rank stable. So is it Shakur Stevenson?
Yeah, gotta be having it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if Haney moves up and vacates all those titles, which we think he will, then that's going to be for a title, for a vacant title, and I think this is the harsh reality. This is the brutality of boxing. That's the role he will be cast in now, Lomachenko. He won't want to accept it, and it may well not turn out how people think, because Shakur Stevenson has looked supersonic, but Lomachenko's still an absolutely top level operator from what we saw at the weekend. But you'd have thought that's what they'll do.
Even on the scorecards that we saw, he's a couple of rounds away from being the undisputed lightweight champion. So there's still plenty left, which I'm sure is how it'll be marketed as. Is that next?
I thought he did win. I think
same. I think everybody did,
because he won't see himself as the B-side there at all. He'll go, you pay me, I'll fight him, because he has the arrogance of every great fighter. I can beat anybody right now. Even forget about me being 35. It don't matter if I'm 25, 35, 55. Like, I missed out to 20 years there. Like, I will beat you. That's it. I'm too good for you. And I understandably how good he is. You've got to believe that. So he'll think, I can beat Stevenson, and he could. I don't think he will, but I think he could. I didn't think he beat Haney. I thought the size was going to be way too much for him. And slow down, just not massively, just enough to allow Haney a chance to be a little bit more dominant, and I don't think he was. I thought Lomachenko was brilliant again. Yeah, if adjusted over the years, the movements are not as frantic as they used to be with him, because he has slowed down slightly. But him slowing down is still too fast for almost everybody else. That's the truth. So yeah, I think and he won't want a mark time fight now. Adam Lopez and nothing like that.
No, it won't be
That's it
anyone
now.
like that.
I want that fight or no fight.
If it's not a
He had to have
champion or a
an-
big
yeah.
pay-per-view fight, it's going to be
He had
somebody
to have
to
an
get him in.
unexpected rebuild after losing to Lopez,
Yeah.
didn't he? That was never in the plan. Just one thing that somebody kind of mentioned. It was Chris Walker, I think, esteemed boxing scribe, writes for DAZN these days. His Twitter feed I always find quite entertaining. He knows his stuff, and he pointed out or made the comparison between Lomachenko not getting the decision against Haney and Kovalev not getting it against Ward in their first fight. Again, another really close fight, but it went Ward's way. And then Canelo against Golovkin in the first fight, close fight, but it didn't go Golovkin's way. And most people felt it should have. And obviously the comparison there is that these are three Eastern European, if you want to call Kazakhstan Eastern Europe,
Eastern
Central
Bloc.
Asia, but that kind of method of fighting. 3 times in big fights, they could have got all 3, and they haven't got any of them. Just kind of an interesting point, I thought that was.
Where do you stick Lomachenko against Haney with? So for me, it would be Golovkin, Canelo,
Yeah, clearly.
Kovalev, Ward, and Lomachenko, Haney. But I think the 2 and 3 are maybe interchangeable a
probably
little bit. I think
switch
they're
them
both very
around
close.
though, yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
Kovalev beat Ward, and I thought
I did too.
Lomachenko beat
But
Haney.
it was I think they're very similar, those two.
Yeah,
because-
those bottom 2. Golovkin,
Yeah.
Canelo, I thought
Yeah.
was fairly clear.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, that was, and I did think that Kovalev beat Ward. The fact that Ward got it wasn't an outrage. Like the fact that Haney getting it wasn't. It's hard to kind of sort of. You just sound like you're talking out your arse, don't you? Because I didn't think it was an outrage that Haney got the decision on Saturday. But I definitely think Lomachenko won. So those two statements next to each other just don't make any sense, do they? But this is boxing.
But it's exactly what it is, though, isn't it?
It's exactly what it is, yeah.
okay.
I don't know if there's any really sort of in that. What Chris was saying was, over the last 10, 12 years, this kind of school of fighting, if you like, has given us so much, has brought so much to the table. But on the really big occasions, they haven't got the decisions.
Yeah, and in fights where a lot of people, I think the majority of people, certainly for Canelo, Golovkin won, and it seems as though for this as well, I can't remember what the outcry was for Kovalev Ward, but a lot of people felt that Kovalev had won. They all could have, should have won the decision. Right, next for Devin Haney. Let's assume he moves up to 140. I do think it'd be the last time. As I say, I do feel like it was a struggle for him to make the weight this time. Interested to see where he goes promotionally, politically. I think that will dictate as to who it's going to be, but it seems as though to 140, Barry.
It'll have a big bearing, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one because
There's fights all over there as well.
he's in a great position, isn't he? Because literally he's like the master of his own destiny. Everyone's going to want him because he's coming off his best win, obviously, on paper. So, he gets to choose where he goes now, doesn't he? The thing is, though, I wonder who's going to invest in him if he's not going to invest in them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's
all these one fight deals. You're not going to give the guy the keys to your kingdom if he's only going to sign you for one fight.
But that's always been kind of the thing that people have discussed with Haney with regards to politics and promotional. He kind of was with Showtime for a bit, then obviously with Matchroom, now with Top Rank. It was one of the things that we discussed going into the fight of the weekend was that, what's his contractual situation with Top Rank. One of the things that you just said there, Barry, I kind of like to discuss really is sort of how much of his value is tied up in the belts? Because if he vacates all the belts, he goes up to 140. Of course, he's still a name and he's got a win over Vasiliy Lomachenko. But with respect, he's not a Gervonta Davis or a Ryan Garcia who doesn't really need a belt. He is somebody who does have a lot of value in those titles.
I know what the figures are for this on Saturday will be interesting. If they come back relatively positive, then he can base it on that. He can go to the boardroom and go, listen, we got this for that one. And we have the belt and we'll move up, and that super lightweight division is not the same as it was a couple of years ago when Josh Taylor reigned. It's a bit more sparse now. It's still a really good division. It might be still one of the best ones, but I mean there's more options for more fights, so you'll fancy it, I think. And and I think this, I don't know who's with who anymore. I'm confused. Who's Taylor with?
Top Rank.
Is he still with Top Rank?
Yeah. Progrès with Matchroom.
Progrès with Matchroom. You've got Ryan Garcia, who's Golden Boy, but fighting on DAZN.
I think Hearn will try and get him out again. See,
by all accounts, they've got a very good relationship.
Because they'll go, listen, we got Progrès. If he comes through his fight against, is he Paro?
Paro's pulled out. It's potentially going to be Arnold Barboza.
So if he beats him, then he boxes Catchall, and then you get the winner.
Got like Richardson Hitchens over there.
Or if you get in before Catchall, that's what I say. If you can get in before Catchall, then you get the first defense will be Jack Catchall. And we can build you up. Both sides of the pond and all that. He'll sell it great, and Top Rank don't have to sell themselves because they've shown what they can do for him already. And Top Rank as well. Obviously, we got Josh Taylor. They've
got Taylor, Lopez, Ramirez, Barboza.
Yes.
They're well stocked at 140. Ryan Garcia is kind of golden boy, but still boxing on the zones. You'd feel like if he goes to a Matchroom, that fight might be a bit easier to make than if he went to stayed at Top Rank or Showtime, for example.
Ramirez still around.
Ramirez is still knocking about. Zepeda's still knocking about.
Pedraza.
Yeah, so you feel like the options really are more Top Rank at 140 than they are elsewhere. But Andy, where do you see Haney going next? Where do you see him go next, and where would you like to see him go next?
I mean, I'd like to see him fight Progrès. I really like Progrès. I think he's a terrific fighter. It took him a long time to get back into the mix after the defeat to Taylor, which was a shame because, I mean, that's still one of my favourite ever fights to be ringside for. I thought he was great that night. It was a really, really good, really close fight. And people kind of avoided him after that, and I could understand why. And then I saw him in Dubai last March when he took care of Tyrone McKenna in the way that somebody like him should.
Yeah, he did.
But he really did, didn't he? But he really did. He'd signed with Pro Bellum, as had a lot of big name fighters at that point, and that's taken some time to sort out, but it's been sorted out. So I like that fight myself. I think the point about where is Haney in the pecking order in terms of box office is a really interesting one because, as Barry said, these 1-2 fight deals, they've done very well doing them for such a young fighter. And I know he's undisputed, but really that's the kind of thing you can only do if you're just guaranteed to generate an enormous amount of money. I mean, that's what that's reserved for, isn't it? That's reserved for those kinds of fighters, and I don't feel like he is one of them. Not yet.
And particularly off the back of a big pay-per-view fight this weekend, that a lot of people had him losing the fight as well. It's not as though
it's only a big pay-per-view fight if they bought it.
That's it.
Yeah, numbers, I mean, it's going to be. I mean, it's all kind of relative now. Anyway, we saw Davis Garcia 1 week did 1.3 million, and then a couple of weeks later, people talk about 800,000. You can never really.
Do you know?
Pay
I mean, you know a lot
like,
more about this than we do, but it just. I mean, can you ever trust any numbers that anyone gives you?
No.
Because you don't know how they've just. Somebody said to me a while ago that I remember seeing one figure and saying to someone, "That can't be right, surely." I think it was Jordan actually, and he said, "Well, what they do is they just add up all the numbers they get." Yeah,
there's so many different ways whereby you can kind of manipulate and look at numbers. I always feel like a good barometer would be your concurrent viewers and how long they were watching for. I think it's probably the way.
Peak.
Yeah,
your peak
that's probably the way to go about it.
But a pay-per-view is who bought it.
Yeah, who buys it. But then you get relevant. I mean, we've had in the past where it's like, okay, well, that was a subscription, but that was a pay-per-view. Like, but anyway, I mean, things.
But either way, whatever they can manipulate their views for that's its selling point going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
But any company now is going to say, it's got to be a 5-fight deal, 3-fight deal, 3-year deal, whatever. They can't do 3 years. That's only 2 fights, but nowadays. But they gotta say that now because he's going to want big money for any fight he has, and whoever's got the fighters, he's going to go one for the money. He's going to follow the money first because clearly that's what he does, and it's worked for him. And then 2, the opportunities that he's going to get. So either way, he gets an opportunity for a world title fight wherever he goes, and he jumps the queue because he's a unified champion at this weight. So automatically, he becomes number 1 in most of.
I mean, they'll sort him out nicely.
Either way, he's there or thereabouts. So if the figures do well for this Saturday for them when they all come in, the genuine figures, then that will dictate where he goes. I think if they're really good, then Top Rank will pony up for him, I think.
Yeah, so you make an interesting point there about how the division is as well, because now it's not a case of like, for example, if you're moving into welterweight, where are you going to look to sign? You want to sign with PBC because they got Spence, and even a couple of years ago they had Ugas, Porter, Danny Garcia, Furman, list goes on. Whereas now, if he goes to PBC, and Subriel Matias holds the IBF, don't know what's going on with him. There were some rumours about him potentially going to Matchroom. Prograis over at Matchroom with the WBC. Then you've got Taylor with the WBO, who's at top rank, and then you've got Rowley with the WBA, Ismael Barroso's WBA at PBC. So it is interesting. I think there are fights for all of them. Before we move on, just want to name, who do you want to see him fight next? Which fight does it for you with Devin Haney? Which one do you want?
Prograis.
Taylor. It's always Taylor for me, isn't it? Taylor against anybody. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good build-up, that is, him and Taylor.
Oof.
Two very different characters.
Yeah.
Very different characters. Right, okay. And then the final one before we wrap up this week's review show. We spoke about it a few weeks ago with Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. And now we've had... That was kind of the bragging rights. This was the hardware, the glory, if you like, for the undisputed lightweight title. Who is the best lightweight in the world? Andy, going to come to you first. I think it's even more complicated after the weekend.
There's 3 answers there, isn't there? Trying to think of the lightweights there now, aren't you, as well?
Partly.
And we'll consider Haney a lightweight until he moves on.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I can't really pick between Lomachenko and Davis because I feel like Lomachenko beat Haney like all 3 of us do. So I have to disregard that result. I'll say Lomachenko.
Barry?
Davis. I love Lomachenko, but you got to say Gervonta Davis. I think after the performance, ultimately, there'd be argument that Haney holds everything, so he's the one. But then it's difficult, isn't it?
But if they boxed, you'd back Gervonta Davis to beat Haney, and I'd back Shakur Stevenson to beat Haney. It's kind of like I put a tweet out about it.
I was going to say, because Shakur Stevenson will be the best lightweight now in a minute. And Lomo should be the best lightweight because he just really beat Haney, really. But Haney's got all the belts, so he should be the best lightweight because he's got everything. But Gervonta Davis has had the best win, the most conclusive win, and
has he had the best win though?
Well, not on paper. Haney's win's the best win on paper because he beat Lomachenko. He never really won it. But he never really won, I don't think. And there was the way that. Davis
Garcia was a massive fight. But what was there on Garcia's resume to make that a genuinely really big win?
No, of course, but
and it was at 136.
Yeah.
Are we paying? I don't think that matters.
Well, if let's just say it's a non-title fight. Non-title fights were always made £2 above the weight back in the day, so that would still be a lightweight lightweight fight, but just not the lightweight.
It's a great question, that though.
There's so many moving parts to it.
Yeah, for me, I'd say you got to put Gervonta Davis the one for me in my mind. No, you haven't. You can put him where you want to put him. And that's what makes it so great. It's all about opinions and bias, isn't it?
But I think it's one of those questions where my normal method, which is to look at who's done what, doesn't really work because I have to disregard the result against Haney because I feel like Lomachenko won, and I think you do have to go more on gut feeling and opinion and who would actually win if they boxed each other more than you normally would.
Who wins at Lomachenko and Davis?
I back Davis is it. By stoppage.
But this is exactly what I'm saying. You have to think about that.
But it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to sit down and watch him for hours.
Well, that's what I was thinking about when I was sitting there in kind of stunned silence. I was trying to figure out if those two boxed, because I think those, that would be it for me. Who would win? And I just don't know. Yeah,
because we had this conversation, didn't we, the other week, and that's why I thought it was good to revisit it now. Is a sense of
I definitely don't know now. After Lomachenko
again, it's like you would expect it to become a little bit more clear after the weekend, but it really hasn't.
No, it hasn't.
You've got Haney with the belts, but we felt Lomachenko beat him. But I think Davis would beat both of those, but I don't know if he beats Shakur Stevenson. So you've got like the answer. There's really 4 kind of answers that you could make, which is, well, Haney's got the belts, and it was a close fight. He kept them. Yeah, but I felt Lomachenko won, and he's got more of the body of work at lightweight. Yeah, but Davis had the win over Garcia, and I think he knocks them out. Yeah, but Shakur's probably the best out of all of them.
That's when you know you've just got a really potentially just dynamite.
We
mix
just
if
need
they
them
could
to
just
fight now.
Fight each
But
other.
we've had 2 really big ones.
Lomachenko's done things that no one's ever done before. I mean, the way he moves and that, it's just like it's unseen. Like no one's ever done the way he does it, the way he goes about his work. It's just like maverick. So you just think, look at that. Like Stevenson's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But you can compare him to other fighters other great fighters in the past. That's a little bit Mayweather. That's a little bit out this way. He does the great things that other great fighters have done. But the way Lomachenko does his work, I can
It's different.
add him up with anyone else. I can't think of the top of my... There probably is, you really study it, or you're a historian, you go, that's how so-and-so used to do it. But I can't really think how whoever boxed like him, I don't know. And not because it was always Usyk, him and Usyk, but they box totally different ways.
They're not the same.
And so like, who does it like him? So you just think he's the most maverick of them all. Stevenson's the future. Who's the now? I think before we saw, but I think and I hope. I feel that Davis. I always thought Davis would beat Haney.
Yeah, same.
I think I said that. I hope I just said that. But like, you can put a case against Haney as well. By the way, he's a good fighter, but he doesn't do nothing. Pow. That's not
It's
like,
a solid all rounder.
Yeah,
I feel like again we had the fight for the clout and the money, which was Davis and Garcia. We had the fight this weekend for kind of the hardware, and also we kind of knew, as you mentioned earlier, we knew what type of fight this weekend was going to be. It was going to be one for the purists. It wasn't going to be one that did 1 million pay-per-view buys or had NBA players paying $200,000 for a ringside ticket.
You just said as well, the few weeks apart, we've had 2 massive fights at this weight. I know one was a pound over, but and that's great because we do talk. Well, we don't particularly, but boxing fans can get quite down about fights we don't get, and we don't kind of pay enough attention maybe to what we do get. But that's great. And you look at Shakur Stevenson kind of like just lurking in the ring on Saturday. He will not tolerate not being in that mix.
Andy Cruz might be the best lightweight you haven't fought, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, according to Eddie, he would beat them all right now.
Yeah,
absolutely,
we don't have enough time to go on what Eddie thinks before we move on. I think Davis versus Stevenson for me is going to be the one.
Yeah,
that's the one at lightweight. That's for the number one for the throne.
Oh,
so you've got one for the clout, one for the belt, and one
Ryan
for the
Garcia.
throne.
Ryan Garcia is a threat for anybody. By the way, he might look like he fell over and he got exposed, but the speed that he has and the power that he had, natural power and speed that he has, right? He could catch and knock Haney out. I think I'd pick Haney to beat him.
Haney Garcia.
I'd pick Haney to beat him.
I like that fight. They should have made that fight when they were both at DAZN. They spent $7 million on Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas. They spent $4 million on Jose Ramirez to come over and knock out Maurice Hooker. You can't throw 10 mil each at Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Garcia was the interim champion while Haney was the WBC champion.
No, you couldn't afford him, though.
But now you can't. But but if you're going to overspend on that because people really wanted to see that.
Do you know what I mean? No, because they tend to think, you got to expose Ryan Garcia now because the whole quit scenario, the whole quit debate. But he did get it by Gervonta Davis. Let's not forget that, who was brilliant, by the way, with his judgment of distance and everything about that. But so he'll come again. I don't know what weight he's going to be at. He'll probably be a super lightweight, I would have thought. But either way, he's a danger for everyone still.
Oh yeah.
He still maybe he doesn't start favourite against any of those big names in my mind, and in our minds, I would think all the same. But still, he's a live dog in all those fights because of his natural speed and his natural power. Always makes him dangerous.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, this sounds sort of a bit sadistic because it won't be great in terms of him living inside his own head. But hopefully, off the back of that defeat, it's put a bit of a chip on his shoulder and made him a bit bitter and a bit mean because, he's worked hard during his career. You can't deny that, but everything had kind of gone his way, and it maybe woke him up to just the realities of life at the top.
Got a new trainer now as well, Derek James. Some stable that he's got, isn't it?
Yes.
Jamel Charlo, Errol Spence, Anthony Joshua, Frank Martin.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia and Marcus Brown, who somebody pointed out to me that I didn't include. Sorry, Marcus, if you're
Brown.
watching. But that's all we have time for our review show. Thank you very much for sitting by and listening to us review this weekend's action. Let us know who you think is the number one lightweight in the world down in the comments. But from me, Rob Tebbutt, from the returning Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke, thanks very much for stopping by The Boxing Show, and we'll see you next time.